Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing a brand new Jack Wolf, and it's another EDC Fixed Blade. I can't tell you how excited I was because this right here is the Jack Wolf Vampire Jack, and it was currently one of my favorite models from Jack Wolf, just because I love the overall look of the knife and the versatility of the spear point blade. So when I found out he was doing a fixed version of it, yeah, I was over the moon. So the Jack Wolf Vampire Fixed EDC is the second EDC fixed blade in the Jack Wolf lineup. And if you are following coverage, I think it was from Blade Show, Texas, he did a fully USA made version of this. It was a very limited piece, but I thought it was incredibly cool. I hope he does that again, and I would love to be able to get my hands on one of those. I think LT Wright was the US maker who made those for him, if I remember correctly. Being that pretty much all of us that didn't get a chance to go there weren't able to pick up one of those, so he did this production run to make up for that. We'll check out this sheath in just a little bit. So what we have here is the coffin pattern on that handle, and once again that beautiful spear point blade. The Vampire Fixed EDC is a hair longer than the first EDC fixed blade. I think, what is it, the late night Jack? I'm sorry, my brain's boggled. It's super early in the morning when I'm recording this, but it is a little bit longer, and you do have more grip area than this one. We'll talk about that in a second as well. This one drops on 4/18/25 at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, there are other variations than the one you see here. I think there's 3 or 4 that are being released from Jack Wolf, and then there is an exclusive with black, I think, paper micarta that is an exclusive to Blade HQ, and I will have that link down below. But being that this video is not dropping on the 18th, it's going to say sold out till then or coming soon. I will try to do a community post thread whenever the drop is live. So I would categorize this as a Gents EDC Fixed Blade, and I've carried this every single day since I've gotten it. I showed it off to a lot of people, and every single person I showed this to loved it. Like I said, it's a great pocket dropper. It even comes ready to drop in the pocket with its clipped sheath. Total length from end to end is 6 inches with a 3.02 inch spear point blade, as you can see there. Beautiful hand rub satin on this particular variation. Nice top swedge to come down to thin out the tip just a little bit. A very precise tip for piercing, but it's not super dainty. You got a little bit extra steel behind there. They didn't thin it out too much. And the blade steel, one of my favorites, CPM S90V. The range, I'm pretty sure on the S90V is like 60 to 61 HRC. We have a perfectly executed sharpening tool, as you can see here. It doesn't start to thicken up till right here, so you're gonna have probably the life of this knife before it'll even begin to start to widen on you at the heel. That low tip on that spear points in the center line of the handle is gonna be super versatile because I can easily get it down to maneuver it into some precision cuts. If you need to pierce into something, it's right there in the center. In-hand cuts are gonna be great because you don't have too crazy of a belly going to that tip. It's a very gradual belly. Your blade stock thickness on this one's coming in at 0.12, and we have a full height hollow grind that comes down nice and thin to around 16 thousandths behind the edge. Let's see how this one performs. The knife came with a really good edge out of box, and it's always a breath of fresh air testing these Jack Wolf knives because I know they have great edge geometry, great blade geometry, and they always slice so well. And if you purchase one of these and you think it's slicing well, which you should, as long as it has a nice sharp edge on it, if you think it's slicing well, try laying the edge back a little bit. I usually set, whenever I sharpen any of my Jack Wolfs, I usually set them around 17 to 18 degrees per side, and man, it's just like light years better. Testing those ergos is comfortable. Nothing was poking or prodding me. It did take me a little second to situate my hand where I want it to be, doing different grips. Of course, I get the most power in the hammer grip, but I did start to feel a little fatigue in the wrist and forearms because I am squeezing it a lot tighter, being that the scales are thinner. I don't want it spinning in my hand. Now, once you get the right setup, I noticed the pinch grip, like I'm doing now, was a comfortable one, but I couldn't get as much force down. So luckily the knife had enough bite to that edge to where it was grabbing a hold to the sisal rope and it was passing through it rather easily. It was doing so well that I went past my 50 cut mark by a long shot. I know I went over 100. I had to swap my gloves because the glove I had on was too small. It was cutting circulation off my hands. But quick swap of the gloves. I wish I could find a good pair. That the one that's on my right hand is probably the best as far as grip goes. But I was getting those from, I think, Lowe's, whatever. There's one by my house. They carry that brand, and they no longer sell them. They don't last that long, though. I think I get about, I don't know, 2 months out of them before I wear a hole where I normally get a blister at. But yeah, and the pinch grip is comfortable, and then pointer finger grip, it was comfortable. Now, this is not the knife I would go to grab if I knew I had to do something like this, but I've never had any of my knives where I was like, oh, I got to go cut 160 pieces of sisal rope. You know, if I'm cutting a piece of rope, usually it's just to shorten it up a little bit, make a quick cut, and then I'm done. But of course, we exaggerate these tests to make sure that it's comfortable while using it. Make sure that the edge doesn't have any crazy issues going on. You know, S90V, as long as the edge isn't overheated or anything, should perform really well, even though they're sharpening it on a belt, usually. This one, I threw the paracord in there just to show you that it still has an incredibly sharp edge, because it won't pop paracord if not. Sorry about my dog. He wanted to talk about, you know, how it was whenever he carried the knife. He kept stealing it from me. That's what was going on. But yeah, it passed through all this material, no problem whatsoever. Dense cardboard, no issues whatsoever. And I had enough handle for my medium-sized hands to get all these cuts done rather easily. You know, of course, it would have been easier with a thicker knife, but, you know, this one was easy enough, and I enjoyed every second of it. Excellent job. Love this one. And great performance as usual. So, like always, this one sliced like a machine. That deep hollow grind is very, very slicey. And even though he did leave this one a little bit thicker, which I'm glad he did, because this is a fixed blade. And I tend to use my fixed blades a little harder than my folders, just because you don't have any locks to worry about, or you don't have to worry about gunk getting into your pivot or anything. We'll touch on the ergos. I'm sure I probably talked about it during the testing, but on the last fixed blade, I was a little bit crammed to get 4 fingers on there. I have a medium-sized hand, and because he left this straight right here, I'm able to get all the way up to that edge if I want, and I can get 4 fingers on this one without being on that edge. And then this weekend, we went to a crawfish boil, and they had some bigger guys there, some guys with large hands, and even though their hand hung off a little bit, they were able to grab a hold to this paracord lanyard that's on here, and they thought it was still pretty comfortable. Now, nobody there had XL hands, so I can't really speak on that. But large hands, you should still be able to get a solid grip on it. Even though this one's really thin in the hand, because of this kick out on this coffin-shaped handle, it filled out this portion of the hand a lot better, giving me a much more solid grip. You have contouring on those scales, so it keeps it nice and comfortable. They knocked off any hard edges they had on this one. Of course, you can grab this in any which way you want. If you want to do a pull cut, it feels just the same as the opposite way because it's symmetrical on both sides. If for some reason you want to do the reverse gas station knife fight grip, I could still get my hand in front of that, put my thumb up here on that flat spot. If I need to stick it into some wood or something, I could definitely do that. Now, this fixed blade is designed for a general task EDC knife. This is not a hard use knife by any means. Your grind's meant for performance. And when I did the wood shaving, very comfortable. Now, because of the thinness, you know, prolonged cutting like that definitely can fatigue your wrist and forearms rather quickly. Mine were starting to fatigue with the little I did, But I would not be grabbing this one to be doing any marathon cutting. Now, if you want to, you could. You're just going to have to hold on to it a little tighter. This is a great dress EDC fixed blade. One thing I love about these smaller fixed blades is the control I can get to that tip. I can get all the way to the end of it. If I need to make a very fine detailed cut, I can. Or if I need to pierce into something and I don't want it to go too far, I can gauge it by the tip of my finger. If all I want is that much of the tip going into, say, a box, because I don't want to cut the contents in it, I can just gauge it like that, and it's not going to go any further than the tip of my finger. I can also grab it in a pinch grip if I needed to, if I need to get around something. I come back here if I wanted to in a pinch grip. It's a very easy knife to manipulate and maneuver. I went with the fluted, I think he's calling it, titanium scales. They got some nice milling there, and then you have your lanyard at the butt of the knife. I love how he does this. That way, if you actually need it, it's in the position that you want it to be. It throws me off a lot of times when you have a small fixed blade like this and they put the lanyard right here, because it's sitting underneath your hand whenever that, it's got to come out the other side. Not the biggest deal, but this, in my opinion, is the way to go. If you needed to tie something thicker right there to give you a little bit more girth in the hand, you can definitely do that. Comes with this like geared titanium bead there. And of course, that fit and finish is impeccable. You can see how they round over those edges to make them super comfortable. You have a dark blasted finish on this tie. Everything is perfect. Look at that, perfectly mated. I'm closing my eyes. I cannot tell you where the steel starts and where the tie starts. All these facets, the tips of them, everything is rounded over. There's no peaks that are pokey or anything. Outstanding job. And there's a good view down those tie scales. Same goes on the other side. You have bolt-on construction, nice crisp T8 Torx, and as you can see, they're coated black. I think it said DLC coated hardware. It matches the leather sheath very well. The carry is phenomenal. If you like leather, you'll love this one. It's nice and slender, just like the knife. I was gonna wet form mine. However, like I said, I carried it all week this week, and it looks like it's starting to do it itself. So until you get this broke in, you definitely want to be careful. You don't want to make that mistake like I did and poke it through the other side. So I tried to keep this one straight, as you can see there. And then before I even put it in there, I lay it on top. You know the welt's going to come out a little bit. I lay it on top to see how far down on the handle it should go. And as you can see, it's starting out. I have pushed on this a little bit just to help it out while I was sweating on it. But that's how far it goes. Nice quality leather. They burnished all the edges, and it feels nice in the pocket. Another thing I love about having this lanyard on the bottom like that, I always know where the edge is on this one. Being that, this thing's very symmetrical because of the spear point and the handle. If it wouldn't be for that swedge, sometimes I'm like, oh, where's the edge at? Well, you always know that the edge is where this lanyard is. Pull it out, the edge is going to be at the bottom. All right, so here's what it looks like in the pocket. As you can see in my lightweight shorts, it's so lightweight, I forget it's even in there. And that thing's not going anywhere. This thing's got a good bit of tension on it, and then it's got the little hook, so it grabs the material nicely. I have no issues whatsoever. I can just grab. It's another reason why I love the lanyard being there. I can just grab the lanyard, pull it out, use it. This one is sitting above the pocket. I could just do it like this. But until, well, now mine's starting to wet form itself, I can do it without looking. But until you get it to where your sheath is molded to it and it guides itself, I definitely would lift it up and watch. Make sure you push it in there right. You don't want it stabbing through the leather and into your leg. But yeah, it carries nicely. That's what you have sticking out. If I don't have a long shirt on today, if I did, it would cover that up completely. All right, let's check the weight out on this one. I just calibrated my scale. Without the sheath, it's coming in at 2.225 ounces. And with the sheath, it's coming in at 3.876 ounces. Now, this is the titanium version. I'm pretty sure the non-titanium scaled versions will be a little bit lighter, so just keep that in mind. One other spec real quick that I think is kind of important depending on your hand size, or if you're trying to see if this one will fit properly in your hand. The grip area, if you measure from the front portion of the tang right here, because that's how far you can go up, to this back portion right here is 3.04 inches. So like I said, I can get 4 fingers on it, no problem. Now for some quick size comparisons. As you can see, it's a hair longer than the Jack Wolf knives Midnight Fixed EDC, I think it is. And then of course, it's a good bit smaller than the Jack Wolf Vampire Jack. And as you can see, it's dwarfed by both the Ontario Wrap 1 and 2, but look closely, you have about the same cutting edge as an Ontario Wrap Model 2. And as you can see here, it's very similar in overall length to the Kaiser Muskrat, and it's a little bit bigger than the brand new Kaiser Drop Bear Fixed Blade. And it's a little smaller than the Essie Azula, and it's a good bit bigger than the Civivi Baby Banter Fixed Blade. And lastly, it's a little smaller than the Kaiser Mini Harpoon, and it's a good bit bigger than the QSB Canary Neck Knife. Now, being that absolutely no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks and complaints? I would have loved some fine cut jimping right here. When it comes to my fixed blades, I actually like the jimping, just to give you a little bit extra stability, but definitely not a deal breaker for me. And just like on the first one, I wish this clip would have been up here as well, because if you look, that's how far this one sits into the pocket. Say your pocket's right here, and then that's what you have sticking out on the other one. Not the end of the world. It still carries really nicely. So definitely not a deal breaker once again, but I think next time I would have loved this to be up just like on this one. These come in at $235. Do I think the price is warranted on this? You know, you're going to have to decide that. I personally do, because I know the amount of time it probably takes to make these. You got that hand rub satin, you got the tie contoured, everything softened. You got the high quality leather sheath. It's a nice and supple feeling. So you're going to have to make that decision if this one is for you. Any of the things I talked about were deal breakers for you, then pass on it. But if you are interested in this one, I can highly, highly recommend it. It was a good performer. I thought it was comfortable for my medium-sized hands. I think it's a beautiful looking fixed blade. I'd love to hear y'all thoughts on the new Jack Wolf Vampire Fixed EDC. Are you planning on picking one up? Like I said, if so, I will have links in the description, and I will try to do a community post right before the drop if y'all are trying to get, say, one of the Blade HQ exclusive ones or something like that. So that's going to wrap up today's video. I'm losing my voice for some reason. I hope every one of y'all has a fantastic, fantastic weekend. Y'all stay safe, and remember, keep those blades sharp and smile more. Purr, 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 purr.